I had recently achieved my dream of getting a job in the zoo, but was shocked to be told that I had to start my by looking after the lion. I was determined to show no outward sign of uneasiness when I was given this assignment, but I did feel my boss might have let me start no less dangerous on less dangerous animals. However, I plucked up my courage and displayed an indifference that I did not really feel and set off to the zoo in search of my work area. The arrival there, on arrival there, I met my colleague Joe, who took me along the narrow path which led into the lion's enclosure, which was spread over 3 acres and was surrounded by a tall, barbed fence. Moving outside the fence, Joe and I came to an area of long, lush grass bordering a pool where the lion Albert lay picturesquely under a tree. Joe rattled a stake along the fence. Albert merely gave us a withering look, and he did not look fierce and wild into me, but Joe must have read my thoughts because he fixed me with an intense stare. Now you listen to me, young man, he said. He may look tame, but he isn't. He is not. Understand? He is not. Understand? He surveyed me to see if I had absorbed this lesson. My first few days were fully occupied with memorizing the daily chores of feeding and cleaning, but this work was fairly basic, and once I had mastered it, I had more time for trying to learn something about clients. Joe was amused that I carried an enormous notebook in my pocket and that I would, at the slightest provocation, write down something I had noticed about Albert's behavior. There is probably no other animal in folklore that has been endowed with as many imaginary virtues as the lion has. I discovered this when I decided to read all I could and see how it matched my own observations. Ever since someone, in a moment of unzoological enthusiasm, called it the king of beasts, writers have vied with each other to produce evidence of the lion's right and to this title, although notably no scientist has ever done so. Some writers have praised the lion for its kindness, wisdom, and courage. I soon realized these virtues certainly did not fit Albert. He did not have an ounce of pity in his character. On that very first morning, I was walking past his enclosure. Albert had concealed himself in a thick bed of grass. Suddenly and mercilessly, he jumped out against the bars with a hair-raised roar at me. He did this again on the second day, after which he squatted on his haunches and fixed me with eyes full of ferocious amusement at my panic. Once a week, we had to move Albert so that we could enter the enclosure and learn and clean it. Built into the side of the enclosure was a large iron barred cage, accessed by two sliding doors, one into the enclosure and one onto the outside world. Looking radiantly innocent, we would place a huge piece of meat inside the cage where Albert could both see and smell it. Then, closing the outer door, we would raise the inner door to the enclosure so that Albert could get into the meat while we stood chatting outside as if there was nothing further from our minds than trapping a lion. In defense, the Albert's intelligence, he was not fooled by any of this for 1 minute, but it had become a sort of ritual which had to be respected, or the whole procedure would become disorganized. While Albert studied the meat from a distance, he would speak in childish voices to him, saying, "Would you like some meat, Albert?" We would repeat this endlessly, and the whole performance was made doubly ridiculous by the fact that Albert understood none of it, and the theory was that Albert would obligingly go into the cage to eat the meat. While he feasted, we cleaned the enclosure in safety. If Albert wasn't taken in by any of our tricks after 10 minutes, we tried another ruse. We would saunter off down the path, but occasionally Albert would make a sudden dash into the cage, grab his trophy, and escape with it before we had time to slam the door on him. When that happened, we just had to wait until the next day when Albert would be hungry again. Section 2, Reading for Meaning. Read passage to Albert's line in the insert and answer all the questions below from paragraph 1. 3a, and the writer had to start by looking after the line 2. What kind of animals did he expect to start with? Less dangerous animals. B. The writer tells us, I plucked up my courage and I displayed an indifference that I did not really feel. Lines 4 to 5 explain in your own words what the writer did. He took courage to face the risk and pretended not to be afraid of the lions, the beast, lion the least. From paragraph 2, why do you think Joe rattled a stick along the fence? Line 9, it was a kind of warning to keep the lion intimidated. What lesson did Joe want to teach the writer when he said he may look tame, but he isn't? Line 12, it was a kind of warning to the writer not to touch the animal, the lion, even when it looked docile. Paragraph 3. Why did the writer soon have more time to try to learn something about, in line 16, about lions? The writer was pretty sharp and to learn things quickly. What two things did the writer do to try to learn something about lions? The writer noted down the details in his diary about the behavior of the lion. Number two, the writer could later read the details to recall the movements of the lion. C. The lion is called the king of beasts. Why is this name unzoological? Line 21. Practically, the lion behaved differently from the conventional traits relating the beast. In what way, according to the writer, did Albert show on the first morning that he did not have an ounce of pity in his character? The lion jumped towards the writer and roared loudly to frighten him. The writer says that Albert's eyes were full of ferocious amusement at my panic. Line 28. Describe in your own words Albert's reaction and to the writer's panic. The beast was pleased to see that the writer was easily frightened. From paragraph 4, 6a, why did Joe and the writer place a huge piece of meat, line 32, inside the cage? It was to move the line and uh, to the other part, so that the writer and Joe could do their clean job at the enclosure. Give one word from the paragraph which shows that the procedure for trapping a lion, line 35, always followed the same pattern, ritual. From paragraph 5, 7. In what two ways was the performance to trap the lion doubly ridiculous? Line 40. They spoke unto the lion as if the lion was a child. The lion did not understand the least what they talked to it. From the whole passage, for each of the words or phrases below, circle the letter A, B, C, or D, which has the same meaning that the word or phrase has in the passage. Uneasiness, anxiety, withering, scornful, wide with, competed with, obligingly, helpfully, trophy, prize. Reread paragraphs 2 and 5, which contain sentences telling us about A. What Joe did, and B. What Joe and the writer did. Give the meaning of each sentence as it is used in the passage, the effect of each sentence as it is used in the passage. A. He fixed he fixed me with an intense stare, line 11. Meaning, Joe looked at the writer in a way as if to establish his authority on him. Effect, the writer realized that Joe was serious about work and the least tolerant. We would saunter off down the path, meaning they just walked in a relaxed way. In fact, the line felt relieved to see that they were leaving away.